Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Alter Ego podcast. My name is Jack Austin. With me, as always, from here on out, it's going to be our buddy Mark, who prefers anonymity, so we're not going to get into who he is, all right? If you try to figure that out, we'll kill you.
Just call me Mark.
Just call him Mark. Anyway, Alter Ego podcast, what is it? What are you guys talking about? Why in the world should I be listening to this? Alter Ego is going to be mainly about some pop culture stuff, mainly pertaining to comic books, comic book movies, trailers, comics in general. We find that incredibly interesting, and we like to talk about it, so we figured why not record it and let you listen to it and enjoy, right?
Yeah, I just figured we're so interesting when we speak to each other.
Yeah.
Other people would love to listen to our conversation.
Yeah,
so
every
might
time.
as well put it in audio form.
Every time we're sitting around talking around a campfire or in complete loneliness
we don't
out
on
in the
vacation
woods,
all the time.
people show up. And they're like, what are these guys talking about? So,
You guys should record this.
yeah, right. You guys should record this. Do you do podcasts? Great. A little bit about me and how I got into comics. First of all, I don't think either one of us would proclaim to be experts, right?
Oh, God, no.
No way. So a lot of this is going to be educational for me. I have a wonderful partner in Emerald City Comics who's allowing us to use some of their source material to do some deep dives if we want to, which is super, super cool to them. Always support your local comic book shop. Emerald City is local to us, and they have been super, super awesome. But I got into comics comic book characters and the whole thing way back in the day. And what I can first remember is Marvel versus Capcom, the video game, right? I remember seeing that it was a fighting game and people were losing their minds over it. And that was really my first intro into superheroes and stuff like that. I mean, I think that one had the Hulk. It had Spider-Man, who was super OP in that game, by the way. It had Blackheart, who's from the Ghost Rider, comics and lore and all that. And after that, I started seeing TV shows, movies. Oh, man, this is super cool.
These video game characters are everywhere.
Right. Where did this come from? Right. And then I remember talking about it, and me talking about the Hulk, and my dad knew who the Hulk was.
Oh.
And I was like, what? How do you know cool things? Right? He knew the old Lou Ferrigno show.
Nice.
Where he would Hulk out and rip his clothes for fun. And now I've done like a lot of people and watched all the Marvel movies, and I keep up with the games and the TV shows and all stuff like that. And I remember walking in and going, wait a minute. I know Marvel, but who's Batman? What's up here? What's up with Batman? What's up with Superman? Actually, that's kind of silly to say because I probably did know of Batman way back when, but I didn't know it was a comic book.
Oh, really?
I just thought Batman was, this cool thing. Michael Keaton dressed up in black. So from then on, it's just kind of grown and grown for me. That's how I got into it, and I'm into it now. My kids and I are heavily into it. That's one big way that we bond is through comic books. You know what I mean? Yeah.
That's the way to do it,
For real.
Pass it on to the next generation.
Exactly. How about you, Mark? How did you get into this?
Mine is completely opposite because I came across DC first. The way I came across it was, of all things, my dad showed me the Batman 66 television show when I was like 4 years old.
We're talking Adam West?
Adam West.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Zap!
So he showed me, he's like, let me show you this TV show. And he showed it to me, and I was just enthralled by it.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I'm like, it was the coolest thing I've ever seen because I've never really seen anything like that before. I've never read a comic or I wasn't playing video games at that point. So I would sit down every day. It'd be 2 episodes back to back on replay. And that was our thing we did together when I was a kid.
Yeah.
He didn't mind doing it because he loved it, and then he loved sharing that with me.
Right.
So I watched that for a while, and then Batman the Animated Series rolled out.
Oh,
and
boy.
I was like,
yeah.
That Batman show has a cartoon version of it that's on when I'm watching cartoons. This is fantastic.
Big leagues.
And then I got a little older, and it's like, these are comic book characters, and they're in comic books. Oh, okay. So there's Superman, and then it just goes into all these different characters. And I think it's because of those shows is why I'm so enamored by the villains more so than the heroes on most aspects. Because Spider-Man, X-Men, Batman especially has the best rogues galleries, and it's just you can just dive into them, and they all have these different layers and different iterations that you can just really jump into.
Yeah. And one thing I didn't know when I got into comics too is I remember saying something like, "Oh no, oh well, what about Old Man Logan?" And I'm like, "Well, he's not an old man. What do you mean?" And that's when somebody's like, "No, take a look at this. There's different variants, different stories, different universes, different takes from different authors or different illustrators." And I was like, "Oh, damn.
How do you process all that?
How do you, right."
That was me as a kid. I didn't know how to process all these different story arts and different lines. The Amazing X-Men, the Uncanny X-Men.
Uncanny X-Men. The Fantastic Four, who I've grown to appreciate so much ever since they left. Well, the MCU kind of shut it down. We're not going to get into that. We'll get into that when we go over the. You're right. When we go into the Fantastic
Four episode.
Right, exactly. So that's kind of one of the things I wanted to do. Just kind of an intro episode, although we're already a few minutes in, of what to expect when listening. And one of the things, this isn't really going to be for the comic book elitists because they probably know a lot of stuff as far as like learning things.
Yeah, don't add us.
Yeah. Seriously, because there have been some times in the comic book store where I'm like, I really like Venom. Well, did you read volume 7 of Lethal Protector? You know what I mean? And I was like, well, you speaking to me like that makes me not want to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're at a time and place in the world where comics are for everybody.
Yeah, it's
at
mainstream.
Any level. You enjoy it at any level you like. If you want to be extreme about it, deep dive into it.
Great.
If you just want to dip your toe in, do that too.
Exactly.
It's all fine. We're all still supporting comics.
Exactly. And I in no way am going to proclaim to be the comics expert at any time. I just love it because, like, if you have kids, mine come to me all the time. Hey, Dad, so big question. In a fight, would Deadpool be able to beat, Mephisto one-on-one? I'm like, well, only if they had squirt guns. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much to dive into and so many things to talk about. But one thing that I wanted to do is like I said, do deep dive on characters. For instance, Fantastic Four. We'll talk about important issues of theirs, certain story arcs that they've gone through, where they are now. Because recently, I say in the grand scheme of time recently, they just rebooted back up. Because they were gone for a while. So going into what's going on with Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Johnny Storm, Ben Grimm, where'd they come from, how'd they get their powers, and not just Marvel and DC. One of my favorite guys is Hellboy. And one thing I loved about Hellboy was when I picked it up, first of all, I was like, oh, this isn't another ensemble comic with, 80 different heroes. This is just Hellboy. And it had such a different tone than everything else to me. And that was one thing that I really loved about it. So this is not going to be limited to just Marvel, just DC, just Dark Horse or Independent. Whatever we feel like covering, we're darn sure going to do it.
Yeah, it's our podcast. We'll do whatever we want.
Exactly. But we'll take suggestions.
I mean, maybe.
Kind of. Never mind. No suggestions. Don't send them to us.
You can add us those.
Yeah.
Add us your suggestions. Just not when we're wrong.
Yeah, because we're never wrong. But going into movies, trailers, like right now, Black Widow has been pushed back to November, but that was coming out.
I know.
They're looking forward to Venom #2. At this time in our lives, phase 1 of Marvel's big master plan is done. Although I'd love to go back and review some of those and go through movie by movie. But that's just kind of where we are right now. There's so much stuff, and it's so mainstream. Morbius is coming out with Jared Leto.
Yeah, I was just reading the dates for everything because obviously Black Widow got pushed back to November. That actually took the Eternals slot. Eternals got bumped back to February, and then so on and so forth. And it's just a domino effect going all the way down. Yeah,
I think that sucks for Black Widow. I was super hyped about that movie. I thought it was going to be really good, and now all of a sudden it's disappeared back to November. Thanks a lot, coronavirus.
I mean, it could be the New Mutants, which is just into obscurity now.
I always like to roll in radioactive waste or run outside in the nude when there's a supermoon out, just hoping. Hope against hope that those superpowers are coming and that they're not stupid, right? Like, I just really need this in my life right now. If I could fly or heal.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Those would be cool ones, right?
Yeah, sure.
How baller would it be to be like at the tax office in line. You're like, you're done. You're like, you know what? Okay. Get up and fly out.
Okay. Of all the places in the world that you're going to go, it's the tax office to show off your flying skills.
Yo,
over a stadium.
I just need a
You need to fill out
hidden
your
camera.
1099.
A hidden camera. Hey, yeah, I need to register a Winnebago. They're like, okay, sir, you're all set. Thanks a lot. Shh. This dude just flew out of the DMV.
Why does he need a Winnebago?
Right.
He can fly.
He can fly. Yeah. Anyway, you know what? Don't get into my dreams, Mark. So yeah, I think we're at a good point here to kind of give you some information about how this podcast is going to go going forward. And I thought, me personally, just as a little treat, we could go over our top 10 list.
Absolutely.
Of comic book
Could
characters.
Be a glimpse into the future of the things we're going to explore.
Of people that we could go deep dive on. I'm going to start from the bottom of mine.
Oh,
let's do this. How about this, gang who's listening post? Let's do 10, 10, 9, 9, 8, 8 and move all the way up.
I got a weak bottom list, but all right, let's do that.
You're a weak bottom. Uh-oh. That's trouble.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, anyway.
Is that the bottom alarm?
Starting at number 10. All right. My number 10 is actually a pretty powerful guy. It's Doctor Strange.
Oh.
At 10 for me.
Really?
Yeah. I love Benedict Cumberbatch.
Mm-hmm.
I love watching him in the comics and the old Illuminati stuff, and everything's by the fangs of the Faltine and all that. And like, he just seems so different from, Captain America got the super suit, soldier serum. Now he can do all this. Like, Strange doesn't have that. It just seems like a completely different element. And I love, the dark stuff that they go through with him. If you've seen the animated movie they did about Doctor Strange, that one was baller. That'll have to be reviewed at some point. But anyway, we're not going to go too far into it. That's my number 10. Who do you have at number 10?
For number 10, mine's a team-up group.
Okay.
Rob Liefeld's run of X-Force.
X-Force.
Yes. Because when I was, let's see, this is probably about 94, 95. Don't quote me on that. Coming up as a teenager, big pouches, big strong guys. It was kind of that era of comic books where it was that early 90s. Everything's kind of over the top and crazy. And I think that was one of the things that pulled me in from traditional comic books into, oh my God, look how big and strong and extreme these guys are.
Yeah.
So that kind of pulled me in there. Because I went from X-Men. And I was like, oh, look at this cool thing. It's X-Force. There's Cable.
Right. X-Force is a task force
of
mutants.
Ooh.
Yeah, and these are all the assholes. I like this team.
Look how many pouches they have
think
on
about
their suits.
Wolverine, Deadpool, Omega Red, Sabretooth, Cable. Dude, do I have the right team here? Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. See? Oh,
see?
Yeah. See? Got it.
Never second guess yourself.
That's a good one. My number 9 is probably going to be like, wait, what? For real? But he's somebody that I used to watch a show with my dad on.
Oh.
And he was super cool, and that was Swamp Thing.
Swamp Thing.
Fantastic. Is very cryptic and says some really baller things. Mm-hmm. And I just remember watching him on the show and be like, God, this is so cool. And then I found out he's a comic book character. And that's one of the big things that that when I found that he was in comics, I was like, I gotta go read some of this. And dude, he's like Old Testament stuff. Swamp Thing. I don't know if you've ever read any of his material. I'm trying to look up this quote that I love of his.
I read one run. I don't remember which one it was though, but I really did enjoy it. Have you watched the DC series at all? The DC
No,
one?
But I want to. It looks so
You just don't want to give DC $9.99 a month?
No, I don't.
Me neither.
Under no circumstances. It says, what does it say here? You thought that it could not get worse. You imagined that things had reached their limits. Do not delude yourselves. There are no limits. Wherever vegetation dwells, there I dwell as well. It's like, woo, boy, check the garden.
Oh, my God. I imagine you as like a 6-year-old reading it in that same exact voice.
Yeah.
In your room.
Oh, here's my favorite one. He goes, the wrath of nature is not wrong, nor is it unjust. That man should bear its brunt. For anger at least I forgive you. The green forgives you. but you are the last that shall be forgiven this day, and the city awaits my judgment. I was like, dude.
So poetic.
Yeah.
For a swamp monster.
Right? And I'm like sitting here like, yo, Swamp Thing, don't sleep on him.
Don't sleep on him.
Anyway, go ahead.
It's very moldy.
Yeah.
I would say this is another 90s one that kind of pulled me in.
Yeah.
Ghost Rider.
Ooh.
Ghost Rider pulled me in real hard because it was around that same era when I was watching X-Force or when I was reading X-Force.
Yeah.
It was just that different. It was a singular. It wasn't a team, which I was used to a team most of the time. And it's just there was something cool about the motorcycle and the flames and the chains, and it was just
him being from hell.
Yeah, that could do it.
Well,
too.
not Johnny Blaze, but Ghost Rider, the spirit of vengeance.
The spirit, yes.
Like, oh, so he's not here to play nice, right?
Fun fact: I loved Ghost Rider as a kid. I've never seen either one of the movies.
Good, don't do that.
I just boycotted them.
Yeah,
I heard what they were, and I'm like, I like it the way it is in my head.
Yeah,
I don't want to ruin it.
Yeah, if you watch it, you will be disappointed.
I think I'm going to watch it now.
You will have
down
to.
The road.
We'll have to.
There we go.
Because somebody's going to be like, well, now you guys got to review those movies because Mark is a fan of Ghost Rider. Not that I'm not, but now I just want to hear what you think of it.
Just listen to me
go
groan.
back through. Right, exactly. Be like, oh, my God. My biggest complaint about that movie was the guy that played Blackheart.
Really?
Because to me, I was like, Blackheart's a badass.
Who played him?
I don't know the actor. That'll tell you something. It was not good. I was not a fan. I could Google it. It's worth a Google. But
was it Jerry
anyway,
Williams?
I'm going to let you take a look at it before we go through and do it. And I don't know if it was that actor's direction or what happened. He could be a fantastic actor, but his portrayal of Blackheart was not my favorite.
I'll be the judge of that.
Yeah, sure. Going into number 7, Hellboy for me.
Really?
Hellboy. Yeah.
Hellboy's on my list too.
He's
we'll wrap this in together.
Yeah. He's your number 7?
He's my number 6.
Okay. All right. Yeah, Hellboy, dude, I just not like any other superhero.
Oh yeah.
I did full disclosure got into him in the movies from Ron Perlman.
I was going to say cuz mine was a little opposite. I did see the movies first and go, "Oh my god." And I went back.
Right.
As opposed to the other way around.
Yeah, his stuff is so much darker.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I really like.
Did you watch the new movie?
I love the new movie.
Me too. And I feel like they're not going to do another one.
They're not because it didn't make enough money. But to me, Hellboy elitists out there, tell me if I'm wrong. I'd love to hear that I'm wrong. But I felt like that movie drew so much more from the comics and the actual source material than Ron Perlman. And I think it's Guillermo del Toro?
Yeah.
Is that the director?
I don't know how to say it out loud, but that sounds about right.
I love those two together. I thought they were great.
But it was kind of a mashup of Hellboy and then that director's vision.
Right.
And it kind of met in the middle.
And I liked it.
Yes, I loved it as well. But this new one, it kind of just leaned the other way. And it just leaned on the material a little bit more. And I was like, okay, I need more of this.
This is awesome. Right.
Let's put him in a suit for 12 hours a day.
The way that he portrayed Hellboy, what is the young man's name? He's amazing.
Hopper from
Hopper.
What's his name?
Anyway, we'll think
of it. Now the Red
Guardian.
So.
Right. But he's awesome. I thought he was great. And I thought he really nailed the way Hellboy was in the comics for me. Mm-hmm. Now, Perlman and Guillermo, nothing against them. I love those movies. I thought they were great. But I thought the newest one was amazing. Anyway, we'll move on to that. My next one, my number 6, your number 6 was Hellboy.
Yeah.
So who's your number 7?
My number 7 was Iron Man, actually. And
Iron Man.
That one's retroactive, too, because this could be me, and this could be my point of view, because I was more of a DC person anyways.
Yeah.
But Iron Man was always like a C-level character to me when I was a kid.
Right.
So this is more of a retroactive. After the movies came out, I went back and started reading and really appreciated some of the previous works, some of the newer stuff. But it was just a character that never really interested me as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why it didn't pull me in.
Right.
But
because he doesn't look anything like he did when they put him out in the movies.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in some of the comics later on, of course, his armor upgraded and looked amazing.
Yeah.
But for a while, it looked like a guy wearing a yellow sweatsuit with like a fire hydrant.
That's pretty accurate.
You know what I mean? So I was like, oh, cool.
First time I saw Iron Man, I'm like, that is the cheesiest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. It wasn't great. And it's amazing. And this says a lot for pop culture and the way things are, how much a particular actor or one portrayal can elevate that character.
Oh, yeah.
Because once Robert Downey Jr. put on the Iron Man suit, all of a sudden, Iron Man was freaking everywhere, boy, and he was alpha tier, and he was in every single comic book. Oh, great. Here comes Iron Man, which, hey, good for him.
Absolutely.
I thought it was awesome.
I mean, they really took that character. It was what they had left.
Yeah.
Out of selling off all the rights to everybody. They're like, okay, we have Iron Man.
Who do we have?
Okay, we got the Avengers. Oh,
okay,
we'll do something out of that.
Right, think about that. They sold Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm.
Then they sold...
Spider-Man first.
Spider-Man first.
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man. And then they sold...
X-Men,
and then Fantastic Four. And you're like, oh, man.
That was their top tier, gold level.
And then out comes Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as soon as they saw the wild success from that, Marvel was like, yo, we need to get these dudes back. And finally, I think the deal is finally done.
Yes.
It took till here at the end of the world for them to get everybody back, but whatever.
It's official, and I feel like they're going to start trickling a little bit. So
yeah, I agree. I think
times.
We're going to start seeing some people sneak into movies that we didn't think could happen.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
Look at that. The Baxter Building's in the background. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Oh, there's always a freaking Avengers 1. Look right there. That's the Baxter Building. That's where the Fantastic Four is.
It's like, not a giant 4 on it.
Right.
It's not.
Right, exactly. Okay. Number 6 for me, Beta Ray Bill.
Oh, wow.
Beta Ray Bill, the Corbinite. My wife is a huge fan of Thor.
Really?
I'm a big fan of Thor, but to me, more so Beta Ray Bill. I love that guy because I love his origin story, and I could be butchering this. Please tell me if I'm wrong, but I think I saw this in a...
I've never done a deep dive on Beta Ray Bill, so I'm interested by this.
So Beta Ray Bill is a Corbinite in his race, the Corbinites. From my recollection, I am happy to deep dive old BRB. Selected him as the champion because they had to move from their home world because it was being destroyed, I think, by Galactus. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I'll go back in and check.
Lines up.
And so him and Thor cross paths. Thor finds his ship floating through space. I forget the context, and of course we'll get into it. Thor gets in and starts fighting Beta Ray Bill because Beta Ray Bill, you're an intruder. Thor, you're a bad guy. They're fighting. He throws the hammer. Beta Ray Bill goes, oh, a weapon, and picks the motherfucker up. Picks up Mjolnir, right? And Thor's like, oh, wait a minute.
Did we just become best friends?
Yeah. No, it's not like that because then Beta Ray Bill starts to beat his ass with Mjolnir.
Oh.
And then, if I recall the story correctly, Odin tries to call Thor by calling Mjolnir because Mjolnir's there, Thor's there. He calls the hammer and gets Beta Ray Bill. And he's like, wait a minute. What's going on here? And then Thor ends up coming in going, let's hold on a second. If he's worthy to pick up the hammer,
there's something to this.
Something here, man. So then they, a roundabout way craft Stormbreaker for Beta Ray Bill, which is why I was super butthurt in Endgame or in Infinity War. What's it called? Stormbreaker. I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not.
That's not it.
It's not Stormbreaker. Shut your mouth.
Well, obviously, you've probably seen the Easter egg in Ragnarok.
Yes, he's on the side.
He's on the Champions Tower thing.
Exactly.
Yes.
And there's, I think, Love and Thunder. I think we're going to get him.
I think we're getting Throg. I think we're getting Jane
Foster.
Yep,
I agree.
We're going to have a team of Thors.
That's right. Okay.
It's going to be a Thorsome.
Yeah, easily. Okay, so we did 6 and 7, I think, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Okay. No. Hold on, I'm checking my list again here, folks. Holy smokes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm on 5. Do I have too many in here? Possible.
Maybe.
The next guy on my list is the Flash.
Oh.
Yep.
Are you like OG Flash or are you after
OG
the CW?
Flash.
Oh, really?
I remember the OG Flash, who's the guy who played Grant Gustin's dad in the new series. I remember him versus Reverse Flash fighting on a merry-go-round and then running around it as fast as they can in a blur. That's one of the big things I remember that. But I love Flash anyway. I thought he was badass in terms of power and all that kind of stuff. I think Flash is top tier. I love him.
Especially because he's always intertwined with the main DC storylines. He always has something to do with it.
Yeah.
Obviously with Flashpoint and Crisis and all that stuff. So every time something needs to get rebooted, Flash messes up. So it's nice and easy.
Exactly. Bingo.
Where do we go from here? All right.
Yeah. All right. So Go ahead. What do you got, big guy?
Ooh, I got Spawn. So after my little run, it went X-Force, then it went Ghost Rider, and then I saw Spawn for the first time.
Dude.
I was like, oh my God.
Are you talking about the comics or the movie?
The comics.
Yeah.
That's another one. I've never watched the movie.
That movie?
I saw 4 minutes of it on cable once, and I turned it off.
I remember watching that and going, oh, man, this is crazy. The Violator?
Did you see the movie first?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I did, because I was a big fan of John Leguizamo. And I was like, I'll watch it. And then I saw his character. I was like, this is great.
That's a sign of the times you were a big fan of John Leguizamo.
Yeah. It was a good movie, though.
Who's your favorite actor?
My favorite actor? Oh,
I'm hoping you're saying John Leguizamo.
No, it's actually, I think Leo is my favorite right now.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's been a standout.
The Departed.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think he'll ever do a comic book movie.
Wow.
So, I could be wrong.
I came across Spawn because where I grew up was in Newport Richey, Florida, and there was a little store with a comic book rack. One of those little old school wire racks where you spin it around, has probably like 40 comic books on it. So I'm looking for my regulars, and then I just see this one comic book, Spawn #1. I'm like, what is this? I've never seen this before. Image Comics? What the heck is Image Comics? That's not DC or Marvel. What is this?
Right.
And then I flip through it, and I'm like, I need to buy this right now.
Yeah.
I need this.
It's badass.
And
dude, another general of Hell's armies revolting against the devil. You got a trend going on here, buddy.
I do.
Watch out, Satan.
But I don't know. Like I just found actually a couple months ago I have the first 60 issues all packaged together. I bought them at the newsstand every week.
60
at the newsstand every week with my allowance.
Oh man.
So that was a big one for me at the time. So
that's huge.
Yeah. So definitely,
I'm
looking to dig back into that and probably read the whole 60 issues.
Nice.
So, all right. What's your number 5?
For my number 5 is the savior of all mutants, Magneto.
Ooh.
The bad guy.
I was gonna say
he's my first bad guy on the list.
Oh, I omitted all. If we could do bad guys, I'd probably have 8 bad guys out of 10.
Although I don't, I have a couple more bad guys. But I just he was one of those guys that I was kind of listening to him. I was like, this guy's right.
This guy's making a lot of sense.
Magneto's making a lot of sense for me. Like, I don't get why the mutants are always being so chill with humans who do nothing but be assholes to them.
Absolutely.
And so I'm like, whenever Magneto's around, I'm like, I hope you win. I'm rooting for you, buddy.
This guy's making sense.
And he was so powerful.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't know. Magneto for me was a big one. I just loved his ideals and the way that he kind of looked at the world. But yeah, Magneto.
Because he wasn't ever wrong, but his execution was just over the top.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where you can sympathize with it, especially with his background and his past. You're like, oh, I see what you've been through.
Yeah.
So I see why you're doing what you're doing. But, if you could only do it a little bit of a different way, I'd be fully on board.
Magneto's kind of the guy who sees a roach in his house, so he burns it down. You know what I mean? Instead of just killing the roach
makes a lot of sense.
and killing the prop, he's like, you know what? Burn the whole house down.
We'll start over.
We're done here. We'll start anew. So, yeah. How about you? 5 for you.
5 for me was, I should have made this number 4. The Fantastic Four.
Hey, the group.
When I was a lot younger, when I was reading comic books, when I was around like 5 to 8, Fantastic Four was one of those for me. It was just a nice, wholesome comic. I remember the cartoon series that got me into it a bit too.
Yeah,
where they had I can't remember the robot's name.
I think it's on Disney Plus now.
It is.
I don't know.
It's on my list.
It's one of those things to look at and go back and
I always find it such an interesting story, too, is because they didn't have the Human Torch on the cartoon because they didn't want kids to set themselves on fire.
Right.
I'm like, that's crazy, but I guess
back then, makes sense because a kid would do that.
Yes. So it started with them, and then started with the cartoon, and then bled into reading the comics, and that was like one of my most enjoyable ones as a kid. It was.
Yeah. Did you watch the movies for that?
Yes, absolutely.
Chris Evans did a good job.
Oh, yeah.
He did a good job.
You know what? Controversial opinion. Maybe 2015 Fantastic Four gets too much flack.
I haven't seen it.
It's not.
I refuse to watch it.
It's not great by any means.
Right.
But it's not as bad as people say at
the
same time.
So when I heard that Dr. Doom was some tech hacker guy. I was like, well, I'm done here.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, I've had enough.
Oh, don't get me wrong. It's not a great movie by any means, and it does garbage to the material.
I thought with the young man they had playing Reed Richards and Michael B. Jordan in any movie, anytime, I was like, that's a knock out of the park.
Yeah.
It's going to be amazing.
Absolutely.
And then I see what they did with Dr. Doom, who is one of my absolute favorites. He didn't make this list, but this is a living, breathing list. This isn't something that's set in stone.
It's always changing.
But Dr. Doom, I freaking love me some Dr. Doom. But
well, here's the funny thing, because I'm thinking about the casting of the Fantastic Four, and I'm like, you know what? They didn't do such a bad job with that, but you're bringing up Dr. Doom, and I'm like, maybe that movie is bad.
Yeah.
I'm like, can we roll back the tape?
Yeah.
I take that back. Don't at me.
One guy who's not on my list whose movie did well, and I can't wait for his Blade. I hope that comes out really well.
Oh, yeah.
Mustafa Ali, I hope he plays him very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, back to my list. Okay. So this is probably going to give away
Top
4 and 3 for me.
Mine are tied together as well.
Okay, good. Let's
see if they're the
do
same
it,
one.
huh?
All right.
For me, at 4 and then 3 in this order is Carnage and Venom.
Oh.
Carnage could easily be a 3, too.
Oh, yeah.
What was it, Absolute Carnage that just came out? Oh, my God.
I haven't read it yet.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Okay, I need to
They're
dive
dealing
into
with
that.
the symbiote god Null or whatever his name is. It's coming to Earth, and Carnage is kind of like his vessel that he goes to go out into the world. And that's one thing that I loved about Carnage was he did not care about anything or anybody. It was all about killing and pure
just
carnage.
It's just violence for the sake of violence.
Right. And that was so unpredictable and so crazy to me. I was like, I love it. And then there's Venom.
Oh, Venom's fantastic.
Yeah. So I bring up that story about Lethal Protector. When the Venom movie came out, which I've always been a big fan of Venom, but when the movie came out, they're like, oh, it's loosely based off Lethal Protector. I was like,
please.
Let me go and take a look. So
how many O's are in loose?
Yeah. It's based in San Francisco. Although, obviously, he leaves to go to San Francisco because he's accused of attacking Peter Parker and killing some people in New York, so that's why he leaves. And that's obviously not in the movie. But the villain has the same name, completely different prospect, and there's no riot. I mean, the symbiote group that's there, Scream, and all those other, they're in there. I forget their name.
I think they were dragging those out for multiple movies.
Yeah.
To try and keep a family of symbiotes.
Yeah. And so
available.
So Carnage is probably going to be amazing. I'd love to see what he does in Venom 2.
Yes.
But Venom
and Woody Harrelson has a better wig for this one, so we're good to go.
And Venom is the focal point of Absolute Carnage. You're following Venom.
Okay.
While he's dealing with Cletus Cassidy.
Okay.
He's dealing with that, but you follow him, and Carnage is just everywhere. Carnage is trying to take the symbiote gene, or the kind of stamp it leaves on people, and gather them, and the way he's gathering them is by ripping it out of their spine.
Oh, wow.
And it's so naturally, anybody who's ever had a symbiote, he's going to try to collect that.
Wow. All right, that's at the top of the list for me.
So, yeah, Carnage and Venom. Go ahead.
Mine is Wolverine and the X-Men.
Oh.
X-Men 4.
So what's number 3 on your list of favorite characters? And then number 4, all the X-Men.
X-Men collectively. Because you know what? Wolverine is really one of the only standouts.
Yeah.
I love them as a team.
I agree.
But all the split-off series, I really didn't care for.
I agree.
I really didn't get
behind. I'm a big fan of Wolverine.
And I'm sure there are shining moments in there that I'm not aware of that I really need to dig into. But the X-Men as a team, fantastic. Wolverine by himself, Old Man Logan, obviously one of the greatest single runs of comic books in the entire history of comics. Makes him stand out as obviously the best X-Men.
Yeah, it's funny when you were telling me
leader, but he's
you were
not
telling me
leader.
about like, oh well, Iron Man was kind of a C tier, and I thought in my brain to go, well, you got Wolverine, he was the top, so that's crazy. I love Wolverine too. I think he's a great one. He's one who, so when we keep talking about the first deep dive, he's the one who keeps coming to my brain, Wolverine. I was like, let's do Wolverine. Well, there's so much to cover, so many people that he's been interacting with, so many things we could talk about. So maybe we'll talk about it.
That could be an endless hole that we can
exactly.
dig into.
Well, most of these guys could.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so top 2, right? Top 2 is one of the reasons. My number 2 is probably the reason I love this stuff about comics so much because I did not give a shit about this character for so long, forever. I'd say he would be nowhere near my list. And then an interaction with my son has put him at number 2 for me.
I'm trying. Oh, I know exactly who this is.
I think you do.
I do.
But for me, number 2 is Aquaman from DC.
I didn't even think about Aquaman until you started saying that.
My son had an issue when he was younger with water on his head. He hated it, right? Didn't like taking baths, didn't like getting in showers, didn't like water being on his face, just freaked out. And so we'd be going to comic book stores, and all of a sudden one day he's like, can I read this Aquaman comic? And I was like, Aquaman? For reals? And then I was like, yeah, sure,
You're
go right ahead.
Child, they won't judge you.
Go right ahead, right. And so he becomes enamored with Aquaman, and I'm like, this makes total sense. He hates being in the water, he hates having it on his head, all this kind of stuff. And so we watched Justice League with Aquaman. He loves it. He also prefers the blonde hair, orange and green, the old school Aquaman. Weird.
All scales? Okay.
After looking at all the iterations of them, that's his favorite. But we were watching Aquaman in the theater. And another thing, we watched Avengers in the theater with him. And the first time the Hulk shows up, when it's him and Black Widow down below decks, and Hulk kind of comes out, rah, scares you. My son got up and ran out of the room.
Ooh.
He was so scared. Then we got him back, and everything was fine. But there's a scene in Aquaman that gets really dark, and it's looking really scary. Have you seen the movie?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. It's when they're getting ready to go to the trench, and those monsters are starting to show up. I'm looking over at my son in the theater like, uh-oh, we got a runner.
I was going to say, he's going to bolt at
and
any minute.
he has his hands over his eyes, right? But he has it to where he can see.
So
he's
80s styles
watching.
comedy
Right.
covering your
He
eyes.
had to watch it, right?
Uh-huh.
And then that big scene at the end when he's walking out in his armor through the waterfall. Complete silence in the theater, and all we hear is my son go, "Wow, that is awesome."
That is literally what it's all about.
Exactly.
Right there. That
so
is
ever
fantastic.
since then, if there's something Aquaman, I'm like, look, Aquaman, son, come look. And we will sit there and just fanboy out. So Emerald City, our wonderful comic book shop, used to have cosplayers show up, and one guy showed up dressed up as Aquaman, looking just like Jason Momoa, had the long hair, had the muscles, had the trident, and we brought Julian to go see him, and he goes, "That's not Aquaman."
Oh,
I go, "Well,
rough
okay,
crowd,
buddy. Why don't you?" He goes, "That's not him." I was like, "Well, we can't get Jason Momoa out here." But he's like, "That's not him. I'm not taking my picture with him. Stop asking. I'm leaving."
Wow.
So I was like, "Whoa, kid, killer." So anyway, Aquaman, that was a
Just
big
like,
one for
don't take
me.
him to Comic-Con. That's going to be a $150 meet and greet.
Yeah, no, not happening. We'll see him on TV.
Perfect.
Yeah. How about number 2? Take your number 2, Mark.
My number 2 is Spider-Man.
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 Wow.
I love Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But the main reason is because of his rogues gallery, because of the villains. He has some of the best villains in comic book history.
Yeah.
And
truly does.
honestly, if I knew to put villains on this list,
yeah,
it probably would have been.
What do you mean?
You said
characters.
That's true. You did say characters.
I did say characters.
I assumed heroes, but you said characters.
Yeah.
But,
ladies and gentlemen, we'll screenshot these text messages so you all know. No, we won't. That's a joke. And I'm feeling like an idiot right now because I have villains on my list that if it was all villains, Joker would be very high on this list.
Oh, absolutely.
Extremely high almost.
So Spider-Man is one of those because he has all of the story, because it started with the cartoons.
Yeah.
And, oh, man, those Toy Biz Spider-Man toys back in the day when I was a kid, those were my thing. I had every single one of them, and I still do have most of them.
It's one of those where you could throw it across the room and you're like, that's realistic. Spider-Man could do that.
Just get a string hanging from your ceiling fan.
And then Venom, Mysterio, Green Goblin,
Kraven
Rhino,
the Hunter, the Sinister Six.
Yep, Kraven the Hunter, Dr. Octopus,
Green Goblin, Hobgoblin.
Yeah.
Like, it just goes on forever, and that keeps those stories interesting for me. Then you get into Mephisto, and you get into all the other stuff. I don't know. For somebody who has a gallery like that to bounce off of, I find the story so much more interesting.
Yeah.
And both comic and television and movies, like you can just dig so much deeper and get so much more out of it. That's why, like, Spider-Man 3 is coming out in a couple of months, and I just can't wait. It's going to be a good time.
It is going to be a good time.
And that one's not getting pushed back. They're sticking to it.
I'm happy with it.
Sony's like, we're doing it. I don't care.
Yeah.
So, number 1.
We've come down to number 1. Here we are. Number 1 on my list. I did not grow up with this person being number 1, but as I've been an adult and matured and experienced more of society as a whole, this guy has jettisoned to number 1 for me. Guy, there you go. Spoiler alert. That is Frank Castle, the Punisher. I love him because he just has no regard, no mercy for anybody. If you're doing something you shouldn't be doing, just
absolutely
X him off the list.
So your love for Punisher, does that come from a younger age, or is it something you appreciated more as an adult?
Right. Appreciated more as an adult, easily. Because there's so many times that I'll see that picture on the news or that story, man kills entire family. And, I'm just like, you know what, dude, why are we bothering with this? Let's Punisher this bad guy and move along.
Yeah.
I that's why I definitely identify with the Punisher. Even if we could have our list of, villains and all that, Punisher still makes
Punisher's
number 1 for me.
Wow.
Yeah, big time.
So,
big time.
Of all the live-action Punishers, how do you rank them?
Oof. Well, I actually don't hate the original with Dolph Lundgren. That's not bad. But if I had to pick a favorite...
Okay, let's go number 1.
Probably Warzone.
Warzone?
Yeah.
That's a solid pick.
I thought that guy embodied a Punisher a little bit better. John Bernthal, though, we're talking best on-screen Punisher for that. Yeah, that scene in Daredevil Season 2 where he's in prison, I was like, this dude.
That's my guy.
He gets it.
Absolutely.
Right? That was one of my absolute favorite scenes, and that was one of the things that solidified it for me.
I was sold. So I saw that, and then I saw the announcement for the Punisher Netflix series.
Yeah.
And after I knew it was John Bernthal continuing that on, I lost it.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is going to be such a good series.
It was, too.
And it just got cut short. It was just casualty of war kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think Season 2 did not have the same fire and flame.
I feel like they knew it was ending.
Yeah.
So they just, same thing with, Jessica Jones and all the other secondary seasons.
And hers was good, too. I liked her Season 1.
Oh, my God.
Did not like her Season 2.
Well, that Season 2, Punisher Season 2, and Daredevil Season 3 were all after the cancellation announcement. So I feel like they just kind of just shuffled through it.
Yeah.
Here's your season. There you go.
Yeah. Well, how about you? How about season? How about number 1?
Number 1
on Mark's list
is Batman.
Batman
will always be
You
Batman.
know what's so funny? We're going to have to cover this, too. There is a crossover, Batman versus Punisher, that I have in my home.
Oh.
I am very happy that you said Batman right now, because now I've got to break it out of the plastic and reread it.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, that's great, man. Who doesn't love Batman? And Batman's another one. Like you say, Spider-Man has all these iconic villains. I don't know. To compare them side by side, I don't know who to pick, because Batman has so many.
Batman's
iconic...
number 1. Batman, his villains are number 1.
I mean,
Spider-Man's a very close second.
Joker, Bane, Iceman,
Riddler.
Penguin, Riddler,
Clayface,
Clayface, Killer Croc,
Mr. Freeze.
Yeah, Mr. Freeze. Who's the one I'm thinking of? Victor Zsasz.
Oh yeah,
all those guys.
So okay, so as far as Batman villains go, are there any that kind of reach out to you?
Bane, 100% Bane.
Oh, okay.
Easy guess for me. I love Bane. I've read a lot about Bane, and just hearing about his genius level intellect and the way he broke the bat, going to Arkham Asylum, letting everybody out, and then stalking Batman. He found out that Batman was Bruce Wayne in 2 days. That's insane. So, and from what I understand, again, we'll deep dive it, but, Bane was in this prison where he was the king. You know what I mean? Like, everybody, he mastered fear, and they said, nah, man, Batman is the guy who's the master of fear. He runs Gotham. You would be, oh, okay.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, all right, off I go.
Out.
So, breaks into Arkham Asylum, lets everybody out, and then stalks Batman while Batman is putting all these criminals away.
Yeah, he's tracking everybody down.
And after a long night, he comes home to the Batcave like, fuck. And out of the spotlight, Bane. How you doing, Mr. Wayne? And then fucking breaks his back in the Batcave. What?
Wow.
And the fact that, I've read about how many languages he speaks. He's such a great, mind. And on top of that, he's got that brute strength. To me, I was like, oh, God, let's go.
And it's crazy because he's never really been portrayed in the right way.
Right.
We get,
Who the hell,
Yeah.
Mr. Lane?
You think darkness is your...
So how do you feel about that?
I like it. I liked it.
I like it.
It was
okay.
supposed to be him versus Joker round 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought Tom Hardy embodied a lot of the good characteristics of Bane.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like the switcheroo at the end.
Oh, yeah, that just completely killed him for me. Because as soon as that happened, it was like,
I was like,
oh, he's just a henchman
he doesn't
now.
matter. Yeah, exactly. So, anyway,
me
that's something we'll dive into at a later day. I love Bane.
Oh,
but, hey, we're going to probably release this early next week, I would assume. We do have Instagram, Facebook. We'll have Twitter by then as well. Feel free to add us and take a look on Facebook for our page as well, Alter Ego Podcast. And on Instagram, I believe it is the same exact handle. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Alter
Mark.
Ego Pod. We can put all the links in the description below. So wherever you're listening to this, you can grab a link, check us out, like us.
Absolutely.
We'll like you back, maybe.
Yes, we'll talk back to you. And free hugs for anybody who brings up Alter Ego Pod in real life. Anyway, this is episode number 1. I think we went a little long, but whatever, who cares? We love you guys. I hope you have a lot of interest in this podcast and follow us and give us some good suggestions and stuff to go on in the future. For this episode, I've been Jack. This is Mark. Anything you want to say to the people?
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. Wow. All right. That was really cool.
That was cool.
So
we should do this again.
Yeah, we'll do this again, and next time we'll talk about... I don't know! All right, we'll see you guys. We're going to try to do this on a bi-weekly podcast. We'll see how it goes with scheduling. But as of right now, I would expect another one of these in probably about a week.
I say so.
All right. We'll catch you guys next time. Enjoy yourselves. Have a great day.